that's kind of interesting. Like Lior Susan of Eclipse was just talking about that.
Yeah.
They look at those different domains, how they'll be impacted by AI. I guess for you, a little more focused on software and how that might be impacted by AI in a positive way.
I think software is one area, but we focus on so many different areas too. We have a company called Formation Bio. That's a drug discovery and development company, and they focus on development. It's the only company we know of that's using AI to predict clinical trial results. They pick drugs out, they buy drugs, and they figured out using AI that a knee drug that will regrow cartilage in your knee to prevent knee replacements will make it through clinical trial. And so they're taking it through right now. It literally does regrow cartilage in your knees, and it's going to prevent knee replacements. And think about this, like friends that are skiers, friends that are runners can get rid of having that pesky knee problem when their cartilage goes. And AI found this drug, and they're helping it predict through clinical trials. So that's what we invest in, things like that.
Wesley, would you mind to reflect a little bit on Canva? You know, when we've spoken to various members of the leadership team, they're adding products, right? That like the offering is widening, and it's through AI. I think that's a pretty fair summary of how they'd put it. But they are growing and getting later stage and later stage. Just track the journey.
Yeah, I invested in Canva 13 years ago and led their Series A. And most people think that Canva is a design company. And the amazing thing is Canva is an AI company today. It is. I just saw a report, Mel told me this, that Canva is the third most accessed way people access AI. And if you think about it, every person under 35 is using Canva today, and that's how they interact with AI. ChatGPT is number 1, Google's number 2, Canva's number 3. And I just used it the other day to go create a presentation. I said, I want to go make this presentation for one of my companies. I want to tell the story about how they're changing the world of accounting. And I used Canva to sort of think through that presentation and use the AI tools to create that presentation. It's incredible, right? So Canva has distribution, and that's sort of the biggest place where people are accessing AI today.
Well, what about distributing to a wider, democratized set of investors, Wesley? You've backed it from early days, but everyone wonders when IPOs are really going to get going.
Oh, that's up to Mel. We all want her to IPO, and we all want her to do very, very well. But you know, when Mel decides that that's the right time, we will all cheer her on and support her and help her ring the bell.
And so when we're thinking about those liquidity moments, you're then thinking about how you allocate recently raised funds into the next generation of Canvas. You're looking at how you're growing future needs, but where are your limits? Where is it that you catch attention right now? Because it feels as though AI is disrupting every single industry group at a rate that we just cannot really comprehend.
Yeah, it's incredible how it's affecting everything. We just did a company called Strand Therapeutics that uses AI to predict how to create cancer drugs using mRNA and to help, you know, cure versions of cancer that, you know, we used to kill people. It's incredible, right? And so, you know, companies like that. We have another company in Veda that's found multiple drugs. Their next drug that they're developing, and they use AI to figure out how to find drugs out of natural ingredients.
Wesley, can I jump in? Like,
yeah.
There's a lot of biotech here. There's a lot of medical application. Why are you the right person to seek out which of these startups in the medical area is the right one? I mean, your background is unique, and it's very much deeply intertwined with Google and with what we think of as software. Yeah,
you know, when I was one of the founding partners of Google Ventures, and one of the great things is that Google has put billions of dollars into the healthcare companies and medical companies and life science companies, and I got to help start that team. So I've been doing it for 16 years. And then we can find these great companies like Inveda or Strand. It's such a non-obvious use of AI, right? Everybody's talking about AI for presentations or AI for legal or AI for whatever else, and we're thinking about it, going, how do we cure life-threatening diseases using AI? And that's a very non-obvious contrarian insight.
These companies, where geographically are they concentrated?
They're everywhere in the world. That's the beauty. You know, Veda is in Boulder, Colorado. Strand is in Boston. Formation is in New York. So we don't care where the company is as long as we're working on something that changes the world significantly.
What about globally, Wesley? How are we faring, U.S. ecosystem versus everywhere else?
You know, a lot of people talk about China, but you know, all of the companies that we're working with are using U.S. models and using, you know, the models behind that we're developing here. So I think the U.S. still has a fantastic lead, and you know, we're heavily invested here in the U.S. We have a few global companies. Canva's obviously in Australia,
right?
But you know, they're also using some of the models developed in the U.S. They're using their own model that they're building in Australia as well with a team they bought called Leonardo.ai. And you know, I think you see this talent everywhere in the world.
Just if we could, just ending a little bit on HumanX, you know, your reflection of the first 24 hours, you know, it was very interesting to be there last night. I was on stage with Dr. Fei Li. People very engaged with what she had to say about world models as opposed to language models. What do you want to get out of this?
I think that there's such an exposure to so many people's ideas. Like no one sat there and thought that on the mobile phone. And we go back to mobile phone 10 years ago when I started investing, right? No one sat there and said like, oh, like we can use a mobile phone to book a car.
Right.
And if you think about what AI will be 10 years from now, you don't know what the heck it's going to do, right? It might cure cancer. It might go do something. The imagination's wonderful, and HumanX is bringing all those people together to figure out where we can use AI for things that we never imagined 10 years ago.